Okay, in this video, I'm going to show you how to complete Ozaria Part 2. So in Part 1, you completed this J section right here, and you got up to the CODIS. And for this section, you're going to start right here with the Spirit Lands, and you're going to go all the way through right here, Repetition Inquisition. Okay, so that's what you're going to complete. Now, if you open up the Spirit Lands, it's going to be an introduction video. I would like for you to watch it. I'm not going to watch it, though. I'm going to skip it. And then it's going to take you through some dialogue. And this is some pretty important stuff right here, okay? Because basically what it's going to tell you is it's going to talk about the different parts of a code when you're typing in code. There's basically three parts: the object, the method, and the argument. And they're going to go through, and let me just kind of get to that part. So it talks about code and what we use code for. So you should actually be watching all of this stuff and make sure that you read what it says. But it talks about this is a line of code. So notice there is a word, a period, a word, parentheses. Inside the parentheses, you have quotation marks and your parentheses, which are all very important. Punctuation is extremely important in programming, okay? So the first word, which is the noun, is what's called an object, okay? So it's characters, it's potions, it's anything you see in the world. So in our case, the hero is the noun, so that is the object. Okay, what the hero does, in this case, the hero uses something, that's the verb, that's called the method. Okay, and then anything extra you put in the quotation marks, like in this case, lever, is called the argument. Like if you're saying hero move down 3, the hero would be the object, the move down would be the method, and the 3 would be the argument. Okay, so it goes through what a hero, what the object is, what the method is, and what the object, the method, and the argument. Okay, so it's important to know that stuff if you're interested in programming at all. Okay, and then you're going to get to a point where it gives you a little matching test, and they want you to match. So they want you to, out of these three at the top, you're going to fill in the box which one is the object, which is the method, which is the argument. Okay, so remember, the object is the noun. In our case, that's the hero. So I'm going to put hero in the first box. The method is the verb. So move down is a verb, move is a verb. And then the argument is, in this case, how many times. And then we hit submit, and we got it right. So we're going to move on. Okay. In this next section, they're going to talk about what's called the helper. This is the helper, and the helper is going to help bring like the spark to light the monolith. So here's the helper right here. The helper is going to be moving up, down, left, and right. It's also going to build either a right arrow, up arrow, left arrow, or down arrow. So we're going to use both the helper move and the helper build commands, okay? So I'm going to go through this, and we're going to say next. Okay. And it says part of the path has been broken. We're going to use the helper to help build extra spots. So right now there's already 2 lines of code for us. Helper move down. So here's our helper right here. So our helper is going to move down to this empty spot right here. The helper is then, if you look at line 2, is going to build a right arrow, because once it moves down, it needs to build a right arrow to move towards the monolith, which is right here. So we have helper move down, helper build right arrow. Okay, the helper is going to have to move 1, 2, 3 spots to get to this, and then build another right arrow. So on line 3, I'm going to type an H for helper. I'm going to say move right. And in parentheses, instead of 1, the helper is going to move right 3 times. That gets them to this little circle, but we also need a right arrow to go into the monolith. So then I'm going to say helper build, and right arrow already fills in for us. So I'm going to hit run, and you're going to see the helper moves down. It builds a right arrow. It moves right 3 spots. It stops there. It builds a right arrow so that the spark can go into the monolith and light it up. And we have completed this level. So I'm going to hit next. And now we're going to talk a little bit more about code and moving and how you can put multiple numbers inside of there. And we're still going to be building paths and creating paths so that the spark can light the monolith. Oh, first we're going to see if we can complete this. So the first 2 lines of code are done for us. Helper move up 2. So here's our helper. It goes up 2. Line 2 says helper move right, so it goes right here. So what do we need to do right here to get the spark to go into the monolith? We need to build right. Okay, so here are our 4 choices. Now we know the 2 up arrows are not going to be right, so we have to figure out which of these 2 helper builds is correct. So is it helper build right arrow with the quotation marks, or helper build right arrow with no quotation marks. Okay, arguments are always in quotation marks. Okay, I shouldn't say that. Anytime you have to type a word, it's in quotation marks because like numbers don't go in quotes, but the words always go in quotation marks. So we're going to use that top one, and then we're going to hit submit, and we got it correct. So we will hit next. And they're just saying again that we're going to fix the path or create a path to get to the monolith. There's already some code done, but we're going to need to build the rest. Okay, we can do that. All right, so here is our helper. Our first line of code is for the helper to move right. So we're going to go right here. And then our second line of code is going to build a down arrow. Okay, so we're going to be here building a down arrow. So then we have to move down and we're going to build a right arrow. So on line 3, let's say helper move down. On line 4, we're going to say helper build a right arrow. Okay, so let's see where that takes us. Line 1 says move right. Line 2 says build a down arrow. Line 3 says move down. Line 4 says build a right arrow. So now we need to move to the right, and we're going to build another right arrow. So helper move right. And then line 6, helper build another right arrow. So let's see where that gets us. We're going to move right, build a down arrow. Move down, build a right arrow. Move right, build a right arrow. We need to move right to get here and then build an up arrow. So we're going to, on line 7, we're going to helper move right. And then on line 8, we're going to build, but we're not going to build a right arrow. So we have to change the word right to up, all lowercase. Okay, up arrow. The only thing capitalized is the A in arrow. So let's hit run and see what happens. So we move right, build a down arrow, move down, build a right arrow, move right, build a right arrow, move right, build an up arrow. And let's see if the spark can make it to the monolith. It does. Perfect. We're going to go ahead and hit next. And we're going to also create some more sequence of code. Code is broken. This is tricky. It says, oh, they give us no code. We have to do it all from scratch with nothing provided for us, okay? So here's our helper right here. So the first thing our helper is going to do is move down and then build a down arrow. Move down, build a down arrow. Move down, okay? So helper move down. Then the helper is going to build, not a right arrow, but a down arrow. And we said the helper is going to move down again. And then the helper is going to build another down arrow. We'll check that in a second. Let's see. Okay, so helper move down, helper build down arrow. Helper move down, helper build down arrow. Helper move down, helper build right arrow. So we're going to move down again. And then we're going to build a right arrow. Then we're going to move to the right. And let's see where that takes us. And I think we're going to build another right arrow. Let's just build another right arrow. Okay. All right, let's see where we are. Okay, so helper is going to move down. It builds a down arrow. Line 3 says move down. Line 4, build a right arrow. Line 5, move down. Line 6, build a right arrow. Line 7, move right. Line 8, build a right arrow. So we need to move right, build an up arrow. So on line 8, we're going to move right. And line 9, we're going to move right. Line 10, we're going to build not a right arrow, but an up arrow. And I think we have it all, so we'll check it out, and if not, we'll just fix it. So let's see. Helper move down, build down arrow. Move down, build down arrow. Right, and up. And here comes the spark. And it should make it all the way to the monolith and light it up. And it does. So we are good. We'll go next. Okay, debugging code. So there are going to be some mistakes in the code, and we are going to have to fix it. So there are definitely some mistakes that we have to fix. So it says, for example, look at the spelling mistake. You can fix it by typing helper instead of help. Look at line 3. It says help move up instead of helper. So let's click after the P in help and type in the ER. So now it says helper. Okay. Go ahead and hit run a few times. Well, let's see if we can do it without run. So line 1 says helper move up. So we'll go to this position right here. Line 2 says helper build up arrow. That's good. Line 3 says helper move up. So we're going to go right here. Line 4 says helper build right. Okay, it can't just say helper build right. It has to say helper build right arrow. So after the word right, click right after the T, we need a capital A, RROW. Okay, so we're going to build a right arrow, and then number 5 says move right. Number 6 says build up arrow. Well, if we are right here in this circle and we build an up arrow, we're going right here. Okay, that's not going to help us. Okay, so, well, I guess it could, because look at, I wonder if we can get to the monolith from the side. Like if helper moves right, helper builds up arrow, helper moves up. You know what? That might work. If we can get to the monolith from the side instead of going this way, should we try it? Let's try it. And if not, we'll fix it. Oh, no. Oh, look at line 7 says helper up move instead of move up. So we need to fix this and do a lowercase MOVE and then a capitalized UP. All right, let's try that. And let's see if this will actually work. It might get stuck. I don't know. And if it gets stuck, we'll have to go around to the front. But I was hoping we can get to the monolith from the side. We'll see. Yay, it actually worked. Woohoo! All right. Let's go next. And again, we are going to be debugging, but this time, instead of having, if there's a repeat pattern, we're going to use a loop so that we don't have to keep typing it in. So we can look for a pattern to find the repeating. The path needs a lot of right arrows. Okay, so it says, see this, the helper uses a loop, so it doesn't have to rewrite the same code over and over. The number 4 right here means that the loop will repeat itself 4 times. So it's like a repeat loop, okay? The helper will repeat all of the indented code 4 times by building a right arrow, then moving right 4 times in a row, okay? So then it says, see how this line down here is not indented? That is not part of the loop. If it's not indented, it's not part of the loop, so it will not repeat. Same with the one up here at the top, okay? This line also has a mistake down here, so let's keep an eye out for more. Should we fix this mistake first? So it says helper build down arrow. It doesn't have the parentheses. So between the D and the quotation marks, I need an open parenthesis on the one side, and then we need a closed parentheses over here. And then I don't even know if the code's right, so let's see what we have. Okay, here's our helper. At first it has the helper is going to move down 2. So it goes down 1, 2. So we're right here at this blue circle. And now we have to repeat 4 times. Build right, move right. Build right, move right. Build right, move right. Build right, move right. And then helper, line 8 says helper build down arrow. If we're in this position and we build a down arrow, we're going down into these rocks. So instead of a down arrow, we need to build an up arrow. So we're going to change the word down here into the word up, all lowercase. And then let's hit run and see it move. The helper comes down 2, builds a right arrow, and it's going to do this 4 times. 2, 3, and 4. And then it's going to build the up arrow so the spark can make it to the monolith. And we are successful. So good for us. Okay, I'm going to hit next. And it looks like we're going to just fix code again. So it's going to take some more work to debug these arrows. Look at the path, blah, 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 blah. This loop will work better if it repeats a few more times. So right now it's only repeating twice. So it's saying we're probably going to need more than 2. So let's just kind of take a look. There's also an error inside the loop, so we'll fix that as well. Sometimes it's good to run it before you start fixing the code to see what's wrong. Okay, so we know what's wrong here. Look at the left arrow. We have parentheses, quotation marks, the words left arrow. They didn't close the quotation marks or the parentheses. So we need another quotation mark. Whoops. Quotation mark parentheses, but I don't even know if it's the right code. So let's see what we have. Okay, here's the helper. They have the helper move left, build a left arrow. They have it done once. Then move left, build a left arrow. That's 2. Well, that would stop us right here. So how many more times do we have to repeat it? Move left, build a left arrow. That would be 3. And then move left, build a left arrow 4. We need 4. So right here in the range, instead of this number 2 in red, we're going to make it a number 4. Let's go ahead and run the program and see what happens. So there's our first arrow. There's our second arrow. There's our third arrow. There's our fourth arrow. It's going to go into the monolith. And we are good to go. Excellent. Okay, I'm going to hit next. And we are going to debug some more. We still have mistakes in the code. Again, let's look at the path, blah, blah, blah. Again, this loop is too short. So again, it only has a 2 here. So they're saying we're going to need more than 2. So let's see what we have. Okay, well, first of all, you can see at the top, we have a mistake because it says helper dot move left end of parentheses. You can never have an end of parentheses if you don't have a start of parentheses. So right before the T, let's click our mouse and let's do a start of parentheses. And let's see if that's even correct. So here's our helper. He's going to move left. So he's right here. Okay. And then we have helper. Oh, look at this, you guys. Look at line 5. Everything has to be indented the exact same amount. If it's not going to run. So notice number 5 is indented too far. Click directly before the H in helper and hit your backspace key on your keyboard to make sure that that's lined up. It has to line up perfectly. Okay, so we have, I'm just going to look at the code. Helper move up, helper build right arrow, helper move right, helper build down arrow. Well, let's see if that's right and how many of these we're going to need, okay? So helper move left, and then we have a move up, build right, move right, build down. Down takes us right back to the beginning. We're not going to build down. So line 7, we have to change this to up arrow instead of down arrow. So type in up. All right, now let's see what we have here. Okay, so move right. So the helper moves up to right here. The helper builds right. The helper moves right. The helper builds up. So that's 1, okay, in our loop. Okay, then we have a move up, build right, move right, build up. That's 2. Okay, then we have a move up, build right, move right, build up. 3. We need 3 repeats instead of 2. So at the top here, we're going to type a 3 and let's hit run. And let's see if it works. Okay, right and up and right and up and right and up. And here comes our spark. Let's see if it lights the monolith. Yes, it does. Woohoo, we did it. So we're going to hit next. And use loops when debugging logic and syntax errors. 1 more and we should be done. The helper needs to build a path, but there are a lot of mistakes in the code. Try changing the number in the loop. So again, we're going to change the number in the repeat, and there's probably mistakes besides that. So let's take a look. All right, we are right here. Our first lines on line 1, it says helper move right. So the helper is going to move right to right here. And then it says helper build right arrow. Well, if it builds a right arrow, we're going right into the spark. So instead of a right arrow, what if we build an up arrow? So let's change line 4. Instead of the word right, we're going to say up. Okay. And then, so it says helper build up arrow. And then line 5 says helper move us. Helper move us instead of helper move up. So let's change the word us to the word up. Okay. So helper moves right. Helper builds up arrow. Helper moves up. Line 6 says helper move left arrow, and then for some reason the helper is moving down. No, we need to move left. So line 7 has to be helper move left. So we're going to backspace away the word down. The L does need to be capitalized in the word left. Okay, and then this is going to repeat twice. So let's see if that's enough or if we need to add more repeats. Okay, so the helper moves right. That's line 1. Starting on line 4. Okay, with our range or our loop. Okay, our repeat loop. The helper builds an up arrow, it moves up. It builds a left arrow, it moves left. That's 1. Okay, it builds an up arrow, it moves up. It builds a left arrow, it moves left. That's 2. It builds an up arrow, it moves up. It builds a left arrow, it moves left. That's 3. It builds an up arrow, it moves up. It builds a left arrow, it moves left. That gets us to the monolith. That's 4. So right up here, we need to change this 2 to a 4 and click run. And it should work. Okay, up and left and up and left and up and left and up and left. We did it. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and hit next. Now, the good news is you only have to finish through repetition inquisition, and we just did. So you can keep going. If you want to keep going, go for it. You also can go to the map at this point, and that's going to get you through repetition inquisition. So all of this should now be green, and now you can go ahead and take a screenshot and you can submit that in Canvas. Okay. All right. That's all.